everyone. Well, welcome to another edition of Taking Stock Live, where we do just that. We take stock with some of the incredible leaders, inspirations, and people that the team and I just have admired for a while and get to hear directly from them some of their leadership principles, how they work with teams, and really how they've thought about their career as they've progressed. And today is a special one. We get to hear from an incredible leader who I have the privilege now to say really leads me on my leadership team. Silvia has had a 30-year technology career in technology and telecommunications, and nearly half of that has been spent here at Microsoft. Prior to being on the global industry sales team, she was leading Microsoft Italia as the general manager, and really has now just recently taken on the role as the vice president for worldwide telecommunications and media. You know, one of the many things that I admire about Silvia is that she's passionate about empowering women in business, developing diversity in leadership roles, and she manages somehow, and we have this in common, to have two teenage boys. We share stories there. She lives in Milan, and she's an avid skier and skipper. So she is a woman who does not stop. Silvia, welcome. Well, so great to have you on Taking Stock Live.
Thanks so much, Shelley. Such a pleasure. I've been watching this show for some time, so it feels, great to be here.
Oh, good. Well, then you're going to be a pro. Listen, and so if you've watched, I always just actually like to kind of start by asking people, what was your first job? Maybe some of the lessons you had, and just anything that sort of served you in those earlier days of your own career as you've really accelerated in your career.
So my first job was a management consultant at McKinsey. So a very, let's say, quite a common job across in the industry. What served me well is really the ability to do problem solving in a very fact-based and rigorous way. And that is really helpful because even when I enter and talk to a new customer or I enter a new industry, I have the opportunity to, take the problems that they have and strip them down and understand with the facts and data what is the root cause and somehow address them, even if I'm not an expert of that specific company. So in a way, it taught me both to be rigorous, but at the same time also to be fearless, because in many ways you're not the expert, but you need to stay curious, understand the question, understand the problem, ask the right questions, and reason around the problem in a good way. On a personal level, I was 22, and often I would have to enter, in a boardroom with the CEO and the leadership teams. And I remember, putting some makeup to look a little bit older. And so, in a way, it's been also a good learning on being yourself, but at the same time, finding your way to be assertive, impactful.
I love what you said. There were so many nuggets in there, Silvia, but a couple things, especially as I think about even, Microsoft's own transformation of going from being, know-it-all organization to learn-it-all organization. Nothing trains you to be a learn-it-all like consulting, where you're just, really paid to ask the right questions and then figure out how the strategy hooks into the questions you ask. And I too remember now, of course, I used to put on glasses. Sounds like you put on lipstick to look older. Now I have to wear glasses, but it's interesting the things we do early in our career to be taken seriously, and how much of that really matters versus not. I don't know the answer. But, you definitely, McKinsey, my goodness, you've definitely the name brands, if you will, of the companies where you've worked, whether McKinsey, Vodafone, or Microsoft, sort of top tier, best in class, and of course, leading Microsoft Italia. Now that you've got this role where you're looking after the globe, really, and telco and media all over the world, tell us sort of about the journey to take on this new role.
Yeah, so after my consultancy days, let's say, I decided to go on the other side and to be a customer. So I joined Vodafone. At the time, actually, it wasn't Vodafone. So it was an Italian startup called Omnitel, and it was a challenger brand. And that was interesting because I remember, doing these business plans luckily the mobile industry took off, and all our predictions about the size of the market were blown away, and we actually started growing up so much, which was exciting. Then the company was bought by Vodafone, and so it was interesting to go from being, let's say, a scrappy startup, and then to becoming part of a big company, multinational company, and we managed to grow and become the number one player in Italy in the consumer space. And so we had to adjust also on how you lead, how you manage, not for growth but for profitability. Just almost felt like being in many different companies in that same space. And finally, Microsoft, I realized that tech was going to be at the heart of every industry, and I wanted to be part of it. And so it's been an incredible ride, 15 years. I did different things, both on the consumer side. I managed advertising and then sales for consumer devices. In Italy, also international roles. And then, as you said, I was the country manager for Italy, where you kind of manage all the segments, all the industry customers, and all the partners. But after that experience, which has been quite exciting because you lead Microsoft in your own country, so you see the impact of what you do. I felt that it was the time to go back to my first love, so telco media. And I love this worldwide role because it puts together, of course, the work with customers, which is very important because it keeps you grounded on what really matters, together with the strategy part. So what is it that we can deliver as a company to really make a difference for our customers, to empower them to be their best version of themselves? And so putting together the connection with engineering and the strategy together with the impact with the customers in every market, it's a privilege, honestly, and especially in this moment when everything is changing with the AI at the center. It's really an incredible opportunity to be able to be in this space, having these kind of conversations.
Wow, Silvia, you and I have now had the privilege of working together for a couple months now, but I learned a lot of nuggets about you just there, and kind of connecting some of the dots. I hadn't realized that you sort of started with almost like a scrappy startup, as you said, and then were part of sort of an acquisition, and sort of the red thread of passion about sort of B2C and the end customer there. One of the things that I've admired about you is how you lead, and frankly, just the followership that you have. I'm competitive. I look at how many people are following me on LinkedIn, and you're like magnitudes more than I am in terms of just people that you've impacted that really want to follow and learn from you. So talk a little bit about, you talk about vision and purpose, I know, but tell us more about your leadership philosophy and how vision and purpose come to play there.
And by the way, it goes also the other way, because I've been following you for years, and we've kind of and asked you to mentor me, a few years back, because I recognize the same kind of maybe similar leadership traits, and certainly I've been inspired by your work. Yes, I think that the most important thing is to inspire people with a vision and a direction, and I think it's so powerful when people feel that what they do is also connected to a greater purpose. And sometimes I like to think about the quote from Saint-Exupéry that was saying that if you want to build a ship, don't drum up the men to gather wood and divide the work and give orders, but instead teach them to yearn for the vast and endless sea. I think it all starts with desire, and the desire to get somewhere, to have an impact, to make a difference. And for me, specifically, the fact that in our company you can connect your things that are important to you, your personal purpose, with the company mission is so valuable, because this is a great platform company that allows us to empower companies and people to achieve more, and this also allows me to find purpose in what I do. For example, now that I cover telco media, it's so important that we help media companies to be able to provide the right type of information and news to the consumers, and we have the tools to allow them to be a more truthful provider of information to our customers. And so I find this is really impactful, because it's going to help us protect democracy and help protect the way our information society. And in a similar way, telcos are critical to the society and to the economic system in every country. And I saw several studies that correlate how telco grow to the growth, the GDP growth of the country they operate in. So if we're able to help telcos to thrive, thanks to technology, then we are going to make sure that there is growth in those countries. So for me, these are two important things, and I'm happy to be able to do a job that allows me to have an impact in the world that we live in.
It's incredible, and it's easy to take for granted, Silvia, how, obviously I throw around the words telco and media a lot, but you think about the conversation we're having right now, me in California, you in Italy, the way that, your industries really connect all of us and make the world small. And of course, looking at my teenage boys, your teenage boy, media and how they get their information and make their decisions for their whole lives is really fuel between your two industries, but sort of the pipes, if you will, of how we communicate, and then the content that we consume. And I know as part of that, a big overarching theme for you has been what Microsoft's mission is about: empowering every person, every organization on the planet to achieve more. And, things like trust and democracy, are incredibly important to both of us. And especially in this era of AI, where, obviously it's top of mind for all of us, responsible AI and misinformation. So talk a little bit about, how, what stands out for you as you've been on this steady drumbeat around AI and some of the really interesting use cases that are catching your attention.
Yeah. So I think it's really important that, as you say, AI can be a mean and a tool, and so a weapon or a useful tool. And so it's important, and we give so much attention to make sure that we have ethical AI principles, and not just principles, but tools, so that we can implement governance and the guardrails so that AI is really employed in the best possible way to advance us and our society. And so I think that, as you mentioned, the impact in media can be so pervasive, and we've seen also the bad usage of AI to create fake news and to sway public opinion in certain directions. But now we also can use those same tools to watermark information so that we can prove their source and help both media and ultimately consumers to understand what is the source of an information and make sure that we try to get the right setup for everyone to be informed, but also to be certain about the source of the information, the truthfulness of the information itself. So we, for example, can have helped create AI co-pilot for journalists that can help them, on one hand, feed through the information, but also then become more effective in leveraging their articles and their products in order to surface that information on multiple social media websites on top of the normal newspapers or news channels. There are so many use cases in general for AI in content and media, but also in telco. If you can think of how we are transforming the world of communication, customer care is a good example. So that now, instead of calling an IVR and looking for that 9 on the keyboard, you can actually pose your question in natural language and get a meaningful answer in your favorite language, by the way, so even in translation. So there are so many ways in which our life can become easier as consumer, but also it delivers great productivity for companies, both in terms of, for example, creating new content or also creating a new marketing campaign, but also having information on the best possible network investment allocation.
Wow. I mean, you covered a lot. And, I think, first of all, I didn't know there was a co-pilot for journalists. I loved hearing that because, my sister's a journalist, and, we read a lot about newsrooms closing and the quality of the news around the world. And so if we can somehow give scale to the amazing journalists that are asking the right questions out there, I think, the world will be in a better place. And in the contact center, obviously you see it firsthand, especially in the telco world. But I think for all of our industries, when we give those call center representatives, they actually get sort of the cases that can't be resolved through a co-pilot, or everyone wants an assistant, right? Who doesn't want an assist? And so whether it's language or some of the questions that repeatedly get asked, if you can bring the handle time down and actually save the consumer who's calling in time and money, just incredible value for the world.
And we actually seen an incredible impact, both in terms of productivity. So as you say, we are able now with the AI tools to reduce the number of calls that reach the agents up to 70%. So that's kind of massive. But also the call handling time becomes much shorter, maybe 15-20%. But at the same time, as you mentioned, we see the NPS score going up. So consumers are actually happier to find different ways to maybe resolve the issues, because at the end they prefer to get maybe an answer through a digital assistant. But then when you actually reach an agent, the agent has everything on the tip of their fingers, with a summary coming up with previous interactions and suggestions about what they should respond to a difficult customer inquiry. So in a sense, we make life of the agents easier, and we actually help agents to concentrate on the more value-added tasks.
Sort of putting the service back in the customer service part of the contact center, which is incredible. I mean, like you, I'm sure, whenever I have issues I need to deal with, I do them in between work calls, and so to be able to actually get to what I need done more quickly is just an incredible service to the consumer. So we try we've talked about you and your career and just the incredible impact that you're having on these industries. We kind of try to, and of course AI, we try to finish off with just sort of fun five. So I'm going to ask you some strange questions and indulge me as I go through. But the first one is, Silvia, what's the weirdest thing you've ever eaten?
Actually, this is funny, because funny and a little bit strange. But a friend of mine had gave me M&Ms, so the candies, with a printed face of their dead father for the funeral. So I had to eat these candies with the face printed on top of it of a dead person on it. That was a little bit strange, I have to say.
Okay, you might have won on that one. Who's your favorite superhero?
Wonder Woman, I have to say.
All right, we share that. Mine too. Best invention ever?
The dishwasher, I have to say.
Yes, although we need someone to help us unload it, right? Okay, if you could be a fly on the wall, who would you want to listen in on, and why?
Actually, I love to be in the room with Michelle Obama. I think she's an extraordinary leader, and in a way, I always thought, imagine what kind of conversation they must have with Barack Obama around the dinner table. So I'll be excited to hear, what happens there.
Totally. I didn't know that about you, but I have to say, when I hear him talk about her too, it's like she calls a lot of the shots, which is incredible. Okay, what would your dream job be, and why?
No, actually, I think I do have my dream job. I think I said it. It's really a privilege to be in this company, in this team, in this industry. And if I didn't do that, maybe what I would do is something nonprofit. And I'd like to work with teenagers that are dropping out of school or with trouble, to try to find ways to bring them back into to school and to learning for future opportunities. So that would be a passion of mine.
Wow. Well, the world definitely needs that. So you and I should talk about how we help support you on doing some of that, even within your current role. But Silvia, I think I have my dream job just getting closer to working with you, learning from you. I just look forward to the insights that you and your team bring. So thank you so much for sharing that with the audience today. I know we're going to get tons of great feedback. Really, it's been such a privilege to hear from you.
Thanks so much. It's really a pleasure and a privilege, and I really look forward to spending many more days together, and it's fun.
It is really fun. And I think that's a piece of it for all of you out there. Thanks for tuning in today. So grateful to have you as an audience. And, as always, please add comments and questions. But we really love doing these Taking Stock Lives. It's a moment I know I look forward to in my day, and hearing from all of you. And with that, I just say, closing us out, and really take some of those incredible lessons we heard from Silvia to heart. So thanks all.
Thank you.